Hey there, this is Dee Brown. So great to meet you guys. I am here on tonight just to kind of have a little bit of conversation. We are going to talk all things preeclampsia, primarily how it impacts the African American community, and also what the Preeclampsia Foundation is doing to help bridge that gap between our community and the disease. So we have a lot of good conversation to get through on tonight. I'm also a preeclampsia survivor, and I have another survivor that's joining me on tonight, Nashambi. She's here to my right. She's going to be hanging out with us to share her story. And then we also have Katina. She is a certified nurse midwife, a total rock star, you guys.
So I'm Eleni Tsigas, and I lead the Preeclampsia Foundation, and I'm super, super excited to be with you guys tonight. And we're going to be drinking, and we're going to be eating, and we're going to be talking.
When was the first time that you actually heard the word preeclampsia? What's so funny about my story was actually before pregnancy, but I didn't realize that it was preeclampsia. So my mother had it, but she described it as, oh, I was toxic when I was pregnant. That went over my head, right? So once I got pregnant, it was literally like during labor and delivery when I first heard preeclampsia. And I'm like, what are you even talking about? Because my blood pressure had gone up to almost 200 over 100. I remember the OBGYN on staff, she came and whispered in my ear. She said, you're not going to have a stroke on my clock. So I'm curious to hear from you first, because you are a preeclampsia survivor. I would just be curious to know, when was the first time that you heard about it as a survivor?
Well, my story is kind of similar to yours, whereas I didn't hear about it or really understand what it was until it was time to deliver. I found out I was pregnant in April of 2008. I gave birth in August of 2008. I found out I was pregnant with twin boys. On top of that, not only are you pregnant, you have two babies in you. So I'm like, oh, okay. And I was 28 years old at the time. So I go to the doctor for my visit. And it was a sonogram. We was looking at the ultrasound. And so the person left out and said, I'm gonna be back. They came back in with two more people. So I was like, something's not feeling right. Began to ask him, I'm like, what's going on? Oh, we're gonna let your doctor tell you. They couldn't really tell me. I got a call from my doctor to tell me to go to St. Luke in the Woodlands. And that, when I went there the next day, I remember my cousin taking me there. And that's when I found out that I had preeclampsia.
And it's so scary because you're in the moment, you're in the hospital, you're going through all these things, and now you're just learning about it. How do you handle it with a patient when they've never really heard about it?
Being in that position is hard, right? Because diagnosing preeclampsia and HELLP syndrome, those are hard things to diagnose. It's multifactorial. And so being a midwife and being able to have that report and sit there with the patient and listen to their story, hear what they're saying, and adding to that so they understand it, I think is truly key. And so being in that position of saying, I'm concerned. That's my first thing. I'm concerned. I'm actually very concerned. I'm concerned about your blood pressure. And then we go into, you're at risk for having seizures. We just go straight to it. You're at risk for having seizures. We're gonna have to move quickly. This is what's gonna happen. This is how your plan will change. And so explaining it that way in a step-by-step kind of direction really helps them understand what's going on, right? And for those who are like, okay, wait, pause, then yeah, we wait and we pause. And I will say, I'm gonna talk to you some more, but this nurse, if they don't already have an IV, she's gonna go ahead and start an IV. I'm gonna inform. Information is everything, right? Communication is everything, the way you communicate. I'm gonna talk to you, but are you okay if we go ahead and start an IV on you, right? Because things are getting serious. This is what could happen. This is what we're trying to prevent from happening. This is what it looks like. Making it make sense to the mom and explaining to her why we're doing it. What is max sulfate for? You know, it's for your neuroprotection because you're at risk for this. These are antihypertensive because we got to bring your blood pressure down. When it comes to preeclampsia, the symptoms that would, be red flags, get your attention by themselves can be, somewhat normal in pregnancy. And I'm very honest. And like, well, what about the baby? And I'm like, there's so much unknown about preeclampsia. But from what we do know, the best thing to do is to have a baby. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to do it safely, and we're going to do what we need to do to keep you and baby safe. That's the priority. The question that we can really go deep on as far as what we've normalized in our culture, right? And so much of our culture is normalized. So much of, I want to watch my words very carefully, but we've normalized struggle. We've normalized lack mentality. We've normalized these things. And so we do see the people around us who are afraid to go to the doctor, who are afraid of getting a diagnosis because they know something is wrong. But if I don't know what it is, then I don't have it. It's that mentality. It's that fear. It's that fear of, if I go to the hospital, I'm not walking out. Can you blame them? Can you blame them? With the history of everything, can you blame them? Because people have walked into hospitals, there's nothing quite wrong with them, and they don't walk out, right? And so then it's just, you do hear, oh, that's just my sugar. Oh, that's just my blood pressure. That's why my hands swell up, and that's, oh yeah.
My experience with my first pregnancy, which is when I had the preeclampsia diagnosis, right? I started experiencing symptoms, right? I was with a midwife group, and I was having the headaches. I was having the elevated blood pressure. And I actually got released from the group because I was accused of, allegedly, this sounds like a crime on the 10 o'clock news, right? Of maybe being a bit of a diva because I was demanding to be seen. So what happened? I was experiencing these symptoms, and I called my PCP. Didn't have a clue, right? My PCP was like, I can't see you. You've got to go to who's delivering that baby. But having headaches to this degree in your pregnancy is nothing to play with. I hadn't heard preeclampsia. He just told me headaches are nothing to play with. He didn't say why. So I called them. I was like, I want an appointment. My head is hurting, and I'm freaking out because he's telling me headaches are nothing to play with, but I don't know why I'm freaking out. I just know that I have to take it seriously. But no real attention was being given to it. I wasn't taken seriously, and even dismissed from the group ultimately. So I was like, come Christmas 2014, I was without a doctor. My baby.
And I started realizing, this is this. And I never brought it up. I never said anything about it because I'm like, I'm pregnant. Maybe this is normal. So at this time, I'm reading books and I'm like, trying to find out. So I was listening to you. I really would wish that in the hospitals, they are more forthcoming when letting you know, because like it was scary as hell to me.
This anxiety I felt like I even carried with baby number 2 and number 3, right? So it's like, okay, wait, I thought spitting the baby out is what heals you or helps you. And it's like, you really got to wait those 6 weeks out before you can kind of start to breathe a little bit. And learning that really just showed me even more how much I really didn't know. And so that was kind of for me when I started making it my mission to get more educated, to see how I could get involved to help bridge that gap, because there were so many African-American women that really wasn't clear. We know what high blood pressure is, right? We know what it's like to swell. We know, and I feel like there's just this, head in the clouds, baby shower, take my pregnancy pictures and all that. Now what I ask women, do you have a blood pressure cuff at home? Like, what is your history? And they're looking at me like, wait, why are we having this? And I'm like, no, not to freak you out, but it's really just to have a conversation, or to start having a conversation about certain things that you need to pay attention with your body.
But there's still, the key is, I've even created, I didn't bring it, I've created just a little flyer that's fully represented that says, hey, this is what we're looking for. Like if I say go take your blood pressure, like it's on the flyer. I
feel like oftentimes, this is just based on my experience, and even with talking with other women, the conversation happens when the symptoms happen. Is that a problem? I feel that it is, because I just feel like there are some basic baseline conditions that are common in pregnancy that you should discuss when you get your free tote bag and your water bottle for your first prenatal appointment. And I feel that it doesn't happen. And it shouldn't be when the fluid happens or when the blood pressure or the headache. It's like, let's talk about education, because I know, not to make this too personal, but that was one of the things that you did for me, right? So when I was pregnant, Katina actually ended up delivering my second. And one of the first things that she did that didn't happen in pregnancy 1 or 3 was that she actually had a conversation with me about preeclampsia.
There was a real push to make sure that everybody is getting the baseline of care. And that baseline of care means that they don't wait to get their blood pressure treated, that they get the education and information that they need, and that they are seen within 3 days after that delivery to get their blood pressure rechecked, because there's a natural rise in blood pressure after delivery.
I kind of take it as whatever I'm sharing with you that's going on within me, you're taking heed to what I'm saying. Not only just hearing me to, oh, okay, but like, no, you're really like, she goes back to what she was saying. So what, did your mom have high blood pressure? Did anybody else have a history of this? Like you're inquiring, you're asking to change, to make a change to help that patient feel like you are respected. And the same thing that the woman next to you who is not African American, we're treating y'all the same, regardless of this. We're treating you the same, and we're taking seriously what you're telling us to make that change, to prevent, things like that. But more so talking to the women, even if you're not planning a pregnancy, but you are of able body to create life. So when you do find out you're pregnant, what is the next step for you?
My thing is that if you're treating me, think about me as your sister, or what would you do if I were your best friend, or if your mother, right? Look at me as like a real person that you care about. And sometimes I think the care gets lost in everything. And so you become a number, you become many other things that makes you really don't feel like a patient. And I think that's the thing that we want from our providers, is to feel as though that they care, they have our best interests, but we see that in their delivery. We want to thank everyone for joining us for this wonderful conversation about preeclampsia and preeclampsia awareness. We just want to give a quick special thanks for Kulture for allowing us to do this here at their restaurant in Houston, Texas. We want to thank our videographer, Matthew Parker. And then finally, we definitely want to give our love and our joy to the Preeclampsia Foundation for sponsoring this conversation.